With that said, we are in our fall series that we started last week, which is called Learning to Live. And what we're doing is we're just kind of looking at different issues that tend to be the key factors that determine if people thrive in life or if they just simply kind of survive through life. Now, where most people make the critical mistake is this. They think the key difference between those who thrive and those who survive is the environment one finds themselves in. And the reason that's a key mistake is in most instances, that is a misconception, because the main factor between those that thrive and those that just kind of survive is the choices you make on a daily basis. It's the in and out, day-to-day choices that you make. Those are what contribute the most, those are the things that are the most contributing factors to whether you will thrive in life or just kind of be a survivor through this life. Now, last week I kind of showed you how that worked from the very beginning of humanity with Adam and Eve, and we kind of read through that account. But in Adam and Eve's case, most people know that story whether you go to church or not. It's Adam and Eve who choose to go eat the apple, and then they suffer the consequences for their actions. No one forces them to do that. The environment didn't force them to do that. It was a choice they made, and then they suffer the consequences. And that's how it is in most things in life, is we make bad choices, we make poor choices. That leads to bad consequences, and it also leads to a life of survival rather than thriving the way God desired for us to live. So today, what we're going to be looking at is this. How you can live life getting hurt but not destroyed. Okay? So how you can live life getting hurt but not get destroyed. So let me just clarify what I'm talking about specifically to start things off when I say hurt and destruction, all right? We are talking mostly about emotional hurt. So people hurt you, people emotionally hurt you, people upset you. That's what we're talking about. We are not talking about physical hurt or emotional abuse. Okay, those are separate things. Hurt is not abuse. Abuse is intentional and it's repetitive. And hurt is just something that lasts and then it goes. So if you are in an abusive situation, mentally or physically, what I would recommend is this: you find a way to distance yourself from that and get some distance from that. So remove yourself from that situation. What we're talking about today, though, more is just hurt. Okay? Everyone here has suffered pain in this life in a multitude of ways. We each suffer in different ways, with different pains, with different circumstances, with different people. And what usually happens with pain is this. When we suffer pain, our reaction is to avoid that pain in future instances and into the present. So we avoid situations because of pain of our past. Let me give you a few instances of that. Number one, I hate going places where there are bugs. It's why I don't like the outdoors. It's why I will not camp. There's reasons for it. Now, the reason behind that is, as a child, where my room was in my house, we lived in like a 900 square foot little house in Detroit. And my room, because there was 5 of us in a house, I got the basement. So we were in an old house. I had a basement. My room was, some of you have heard the story before. We had like a 4x6 like thin piece of wood that like went in for one wall that was like 4 feet high, and then the rest was open. And then it was cinder block, which was like old moist cinder blocks for all my walls. Okay, and they were puke green. My mom's here. I forgot. Oh, well, my mom hates this story, but it's all true. So my room was, they locked me in the prison in the basement. So that's where I lived. I often refer to it as my prison. But because it was moist, there was all sorts of bugs down there. Now, I have not seen these in Oklahoma, thank God, and it's one of the many blessings of moving here. But these things, which, be honest with you, when I was getting the photos for these, I was turning my stomach because I had a time. These are the centipedes that are in Michigan. And these are the ones that were in my room. And you would see them on the ceiling, like crawling across the floorboards. You would wake up in the night and they'd be on your bed and like on you. And yeah, okay? That creeped me out, okay? There were several other things. I had raw sewage sometimes come up the floor in the springtime and something that I'd step in. It's true. Yep, she's saying. Thanksgiving Day, raw sewage, because the roots would go through our pipes again, and then it would back up all the raw sewage into the floor drains in the basement. So I'd step out in the morning and go squish, and I'd be like, oh, raw sewage. And then you'd notice, okay? This is true stories here. So because of where I grew up as a child and that, I just hate bugs. So I would stay up at night just like worrying about like every little touch and stuff and like, is there bugs? So now as an adult, I try to avoid bugs to the best of my ability because I hate them. And those things I never want to see again because they freak me out, all right? So most of the fears I've gone over, that one I have not. Another thing, people who speak religious speak, I just stay away from. And the reason for that is as a child, the way they treated me, the people who overly spoke religious terms and stuff like that all the time, for whatever reason, I can always remember they were the ones that were extremely judgmental and horrible towards me. So I just stay away from those people even as an adult. I kind of distance myself, and that comes back from pain from my childhood. One of my roommates in college, his name is Brad, deathly afraid of dogs. Is anyone else in here deathly afraid of dogs? No one else is. Okay. Deathly afraid of dogs. Here's why. You start going, who's afraid of dogs? They're cute. They're wonderful. Yes, exactly. What happened when he was a child, a dog actually attacked him and tore off like half his nose. So he had to have multiple surgeries of plastic surgery rebuilding his nose. So when you hear the story, you start going, oh, now I see why you are like totally afraid of dogs. Even though he's like this huge built guy and you're going, dog's not really going to hurt you, especially little pipsqueak ones. He's deathly afraid of them. The other one I had, her name was Brianne. She was one of my youth group kids up north, and she came to visit here, and I didn't know about this fear she had, but they came to visit here when we first moved here 13 years ago, and she was one of my old leadership youth group kids, and she came down with several others, and they visited and stayed like, I think, a week with us. Well, we go to the Tulsa Zoo one day, and we go into the rainforest exhibit. How many of you have been there, Tulsa Zoo rainforest? Okay, really cool. We didn't think anything of it. We get into it, and you know they have live birds in there that kind of fly around inside there. And a bird, the minute we go in, kind of comes at us, and it kind of goes right over our heads. And I swear to you, she had like a meltdown. She's shaking. She's freaking out. She's like up in a corner. I'm like, what is wrong with you? And come to find out, she is deathly scared of all birds because as a little kid or something, one flew into her face and hit her in the face. And scared the life out of her, and now she is deathly scared of birds. And we didn't know that. So it was the funniest thing in the world because she acted, this is a kid who's like, I think she was 18 or 19 at the time, acting like a 3-year-old, bawling. She's curled up in the corner, freaking out. We're all like, what is going on with you? And she's like, it's a bird. And we're like, yeah, it's a bird. It's like no big deal. But you can see how that pain of the past affected her in the present at that point. The point is this. Our experiences of pain can prevent us from participating in life events, relationships in the present. And we have to be careful we aren't constantly trying to avoid pain because it will make us miss potential joy in our life and good relationships in our life. It's the difference between those who live and those who simply survive this life. Now, let me explain to you the difference between hurt and destruction. Okay, they're two different things. Hurt and pain in life usually results with us becoming wiser and stronger. Okay, most of the times you're hurt, most of the times you experience some pain. Usually you learn from that, it makes you stronger, it makes you wiser, so you don't kind of get hurt that way again. Destruction tends to make you fearful and weaker. When you are destroyed by things, usually it makes you very fearful, it makes you weaker in life. Here's how hurt works. Hurt works like this. You had pain, but you healed. You have scars that remind you of that pain, but it doesn't hurt you in the present today. Okay, and that's physically, that's mentally, that's how hurt works. They're the things that heal up and they're not still contributing and hurting you in the present tense, okay? Here's how being destroyed is different. When you are destroyed, you still have pain. Your wounds have never scarred up. You're still bleeding. It affects everything you do in the present. The best description I've ever heard of this is it's a quote, and I can't remember. I saw it on someone's Facebook post in this church, but then I couldn't find it on your Facebook, so I eventually found it on Google this week. And here's the quote. If you never heal from what hurts you, you will bleed on people who didn't cut you. All right? If you never heal from the things that hurt you, you will bleed on people who didn't cut you. That's what happens when you are destroyed in areas of your life, is it carries on with you and it never heals up, it never goes away, and it affects everything else happening in your life and every other relationship and scenario you have in your life because you are never healed, you've just been destroyed. Destruction makes you hide from life. As you run away from things, you hide from things because you're scared to confront them and be around them. So today what I want to do is this. I'm going to present you 3 keys that I believe will allow you to deal with getting hurt in this life, but also protect you from getting destroyed in this life. Because if your goal is to prevent yourself from ever getting hurt, you will never learn to live, if that's what your goal in life is. So let me give you 3 things this morning that will help you learn to live even while you get hurt, all right? So here are the 3 things. The first thing is this. You have to have reality-based expectation of life and others, all right? You have to have reality-based expectations of life and others. What I mean by that is this. You have to accept that pain and hurt is just a part of life, okay? Pain and hurt are just a part of life. You can dream of utopia, but utopia will always just be a dream. Let me tell you why utopia will always just be a dream. It will never be reality, because you exist and I exist. And we are all fallen people. We all have issues, including you. And so when we all interact, we all bring our issues together, which harms each other, affects each other, hurts each other, just because none of us are perfect and we all have issues. So therefore, you're going to live in a world where people are going to hurt you no matter what. And you can hope and dream and pray that it never happens, but it's going to happen if you actually take time to interact with people and open up to people. You will get hurt. Romans 3:23, the Bible says this. It says, "For everyone has sinned, we all fall short of God's glorious standard." What the Bible is just making very clear is this: we're all sinners. We all fall short of what God wanted. We all have issues. We all have sin, and that sin contaminates us, the people that we interact with, and the world that we live in. That sin, it contaminates everything and makes everything destructive and corrosive, and so it affects everything. Knowing that fact, though, that everyone has issues, what that means to us is this: we need to learn to be generous, granting mercy, grace, and forgiveness to others, and being patient with them. Knowing that we are broken just like everyone else, we have to take some time to go, when we get hurt by people, it doesn't mean people are intentionally trying to hurt us or abuse us, okay? We're just getting hurt because they have issues. And so the same way we would want to be treated when we hurt others, we want to do the same to other people. So we need to learn how to grant grace and mercy and forgiveness to others and be patient with them, because some people are harder to love than others, because some people are a lot more wounded than others. Agreed? All right. That's what we see in life. In Colossians 3, it says this, verses 12 through 14. "Since God chose you to be holy people he loves, you must clothe yourselves with tenderhearted mercy, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Make allowances for each other's faults." I love this one. Make allowances for each other's faults. You know people are going to hurt you. Just be ready for it. Just make allowances for it. Some people are just going to hurt you. That's okay. Everybody's going to hurt you at some point. That's okay. Okay? Make allowances for each other's faults and forgive anyone who offended you. Remember, the Lord forgave you, and you must forgive others. It is a horrible place to live in life when you get offended by everyone that has potentially offended you or upset you. What it does is it makes you in a survival mode. It makes you a bitter person. It makes you angry. It makes you depressed. It ruins your life, and you will never thrive if you're always taking offense to every time someone offends you. All right? It just leads to chaos in your life. Everyone who's worth having a relationship with will hurt you from time to time. Just accept it and expect it. It's just what's going to happen. It's just a part of life, is getting hurt from people. One of the things I've seen at times is people think their spouses, because they're your spouses and this person you love and you're closest with, aren't supposed to hurt you, and they shouldn't hurt you, and you get all bent out of shape when your spouse hurts you or offends you or does something that ticks you off. Here's the deal. They're a person just like you. You tick them off, they tick you off. It's part of being in a relationship. You have to learn to forgive. You have to learn how to step back. You have to learn to calm down and stop taking everything and putting it on a list and holding it on a list against them, and just go, hey, they're a person. And what we're told in Scripture is this: Christ forgave you, so forgive others, okay? Think what you've done. The God of the universe created you and said, here's the life I want you to live, and you went, forget you, I'm going to live my own life. And then he went, I forgive you. You know what? I forgive you so much, I'm going to come down and live amongst you, and I'm going to let you kill me so I can forgive you. Okay? And he's going, Jesus illustrated the forgiveness and the patience and the grace and the mercy that we are supposed to give others, and going, no one's offended anyone more than what we've offended God. And so you can just step back a little bit and give that same grace and forgiveness to other human beings. That's the life we are called to live. In Proverbs 27:17, it says this: as iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. Has anyone ever seen iron sharpen iron before? Okay? Is it a easy process? No, it's kind of brutal at times. Okay? And what it's saying here is for friendships to enhance each other, there's going to be some rough times because he's comparing it to iron sharpening iron, that you're beating against it sometimes. That's just part of life. It's part of relationships. Accept that reality. That's how it's going to be instead of getting bent out of shape all the time and holding grudges forever. You can't avoid getting hurt in this life, so stop trying to protect yourself from it. Otherwise, you just end up surviving rather than thriving. Okay, and that's no fun to live. Number 2, learn how to use your past pain to your benefit. All right? Learn how to use your past pain to your benefit. Our past pain should be used to help us avoid mental and physical abuse moving forward. We need to learn from our mistakes rather than just repeating them. Here is the beauty of pain. Pain teaches you not to do things again so you don't get hurt again. So the easiest illustration we are all aware of as a kid, if you ever touch a hot burner, do you ever touch one ever again? No, okay? You put your hand on a hot burner, a kid learns from that time the rest of their life, I don't touch a hot burner. When it's red, I don't touch it. Why? Because I got burnt. That pain has now taught me wisdom. It's made me smarter in life. We have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of these instances where we should learn from past pain that protects us in the future from being abused by future pain or future abusers. The weird thing is this, in our culture today, it doesn't seem like many people know this anymore. Okay? I am shocked, honestly, with how many people keep repeating the same things that hurt them over and over and over again. In Proverbs 26:11, it reads this, as a dog returns to its vomit, so a fool repeats his foolishness. All right? I see this in relationships horrifically in our culture today, and it's because people, because of what our culture has done and how they have viewed relationships, are so beat up, so damaged in relationships and all that they don't learn anymore. And it's from relationship to relationship to relationship, and it doesn't seem like they ever learn these type of people hurt you. These type of people abuse you. This situation you get yourself into, it doesn't make things better. It always makes things worse, but yet it's they never learn. Have you seen these people before? It's like they never learn, and they keep doing it over and over and over, and you want to sit back and just go, I don't get it. It's the same way it's described in Proverbs. I don't get it when I see my dog puke and then goes and licks it back up. I just don't get it. It's a sick representation to think about, but it's what we do when we don't learn from our past mistakes. Because one of the things we're supposed to do is pain is supposed to teach us to make us better people, to prevent us from getting hurt further in life when things are bigger. The little pain protects us from the bigger pains. We need to learn those lessons. We need to use our pain to our benefit. The other thing past pain can also help us with is helping others. Your pain can actually be a benefit to help other people. In 2 Corinthians, Paul says it like this. He comforts us in our troubles so we can comfort others. When they are troubled, we'll be able to give them the same comfort God has given us. I love this passage for this sake. When you become a follower of Jesus Christ, no pain is useless. No circumstance that you've gone through in life is worthless. In most situations, the pain and the struggles you have gone through, when you become a believer in Jesus Christ, you can actually turn that pain and use it as a benefit for other people who are suffering through the same things, or help head off some of the problems that you went through before they go through it and experience the same pain. One of the instances I always use, and at the time, this one could not understand it, and most of you have been through here. You've had miscarriages before and stuff like that, so most of you remember when Autumn and I, it was in between Gideon and Liberty. We had a miscarriage at 20 weeks, and we had to go in and deliver I think it was on a Saturday morning. And I can still tell you every detail of that hospital and everything because it sticks in your head forever. And I've always said it's one of the most jarring things that ever happens in your life, especially when you're that far along. Because like we've said, you have like a room set up already. You've already started to change your entire lifestyle and prepare for this kid showing up. And then it's just like gone and taken away from you, and you have to just go back into regular life, and everyone else keeps moving on, but your life is crushed, and you don't know what to do. For a long time, you sit there and you go, why, God? Why would that happen? Until about 4 years after that, that's when, what was the plaque that we had? What was his name in the nursery? Jace. Jace Burgess. Until Jace Burgess was killed by an abusive boyfriend and killed a 2-year-old. And I had to, 4 years later, sit with a family and try to comfort them. And here's the thing. My loss that I suffered came in huge benefit at that time with that family. Because I was able to explain to them exactly what they're feeling, what they're going to go through, what's coming in the days to come, and kind of prepare them and prep them before they got there. And at that time, I remember thanking God afterwards, going, God, thank you for taking something that was painful and using it to a benefit. And that's what this scripture is talking about, is no pain is useless when you are a follower of Jesus Christ and you're working in his kingdom, because he can use it to benefit other people. So our pain can actually be a positive because it allows us to help others. We have to change our mindset about our pain. Instead of running and hiding from our pain, we need to look to use it to help other people who are struggling. And we need to change that mindset. The third thing, make sure you are clear on what you're looking for or looking to for your value and hope. I would say this is one of the biggest ones. What is it you are looking forward to or looking to find your value and hope? The Apostle Paul is by far the best example of understanding this concept I've ever known, ever read about, or anything. Let me tell you why. The Apostle Paul was a man who suffered great pain in his life, mentally, relationally, and physically. This guy suffered every sort of pain you can suffer. He was betrayed by people. He was beat by people. He was left dead by people. He was ridiculed by people. He had people try to do power moves on him. Everything that could go wrong that caused you pain, Paul went through at some point in his life. But he is also an individual that thrived despite that and never allowed it to destroy him. And he kept doing the work that God had called him to do in spite of all the pain that he suffered in those different areas of his life. The reason why, Paul had a very clear understanding of where his value and where his hope came from. And I'm going to give you his mindset here through two different passages. I want you to know why this is so key. So many people search for individuals and people to come into their life that will give them their value and their hope. And what I want you to know is this: no individual will ever complete you. No individual will give you everything that only God can give. So if you are looking for it in people, you will always be let down by them. You will always be disappointed by them. No matter how much you think they love you, whether it's parents, spouses, children, if you are looking to be completed by another person, you have your priorities wrong and you will always lose if that's what you're looking for. They will always disappoint you. So Paul didn't look to people. Here's where he looked to. He says this, 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 4. Our purpose is to please who? And not, okay. Our purpose, my purpose, is to please God, not people. Paul understood where he got his value. His value came from a relationship with Jesus Christ. That's it. That's where he put all of his value. That's where he got all of his value. It was all about being a follower of Jesus Christ and a child of God. And that's where he got his value. So he went, not that I try to upset people or anything, but if it comes down to doing what God wants me to do or what people want me to do, which one was Paul going to do? What God wanted. Every time. Was he perfect? No. But if any guy you read his life events, he's probably the guy that got it the most right. That the most time picked God over people and pleasing God rather than people. And because of that, he was a guy who thrived. He was a guy who changed the world. And he established a Gentile church that now carries on 2,000 years later throughout the entire world. And he was kind of the key building block of that. All right? That was Paul. Now here's the other thing. He was very clear on where he got his hope as well. And his hope was not of the things of this world and the things that he could purchase and acquire and gain here. He had a different perspective. Here's what he says. Can anything ever separate us from Christ's love? It doesn't mean he no longer loves us. If we have trouble or calamity, or are persecuted, or hungry, or destitute, or in danger, or threatened with life. He kind of goes through the whole gambit. Everything you can think of, I'm just telling you, it doesn't mean God no longer loves us if you have bad times and if you're getting hurt. And he says this, no, despite all these things, overwhelming victory is ours through Christ who loved us. Okay? Paul's hope was in heaven. Paul's hope was in the things past this world. Paul's hope was in eternal things. So the things of this world could never crush him, no matter what happened. No matter if he was thrown into poverty, it didn't crush him, it didn't destroy him. He was just kind of like, my hope's in heaven. So whatever I get thrown to me, it gets thrown to me. If he had a lot of food, he was fine. If he had no food and could barely eat, he was cool. Why? This wasn't his home. He was looking to heaven. He knew where his hope was. His hope was not establishing a comfort level here that made him feel comfortable every day. His hope was living for God in the time he had here, and someday he would go live in heaven and everything would be made right. And that's where he found his hope. So because Paul had his mind in the right place and had his hope placed on the right things, he was a guy who thrived instead of just surviving in this life, even though he went through a lot of tough circumstances. Here's what I would tell you. Applying these three truths to your life. By doing that, you can learn how to get hurt in this life without ever getting destroyed. And when you learn how to do that, you start to live rather than just surviving. Would you pray with me?